Have you ever experienced that nervous feeling that comes before you do an audition or an interview, and someone comes up to you and they say, listen, don't worry, you'll be fine, just be you. And you go and you say to yourself, I don't know who the F I am. And how on earth can you expect to know who you are if you spent your entire life practicing to be who you are not? So over the next 20 minutes, I'd like to share with you my model for helping you uncover who you really are. And why this is so important is because when we are disconnected from who we are, that's when we suffer the anxiety, the depression, or worse still, the numbness that seems to be endemic in our society. And when we truly can become whole and integrated in ourselves, that is when we start to replace those negative emotions with feelings of connection and meaning and just be truly alive. So, how many of you would be curious to know about that model?
Yeah!
Thank you. But first, I would like to just say thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm truly grateful for this. And accordingly, I'm going to do my very best to make sure that you do get something of value from the next 20 minutes. Beginning with my story. So I spent the best part of my 6 decades on this planet chasing a dream. And the dream went something like this. The harder I work, the more money I make, the happier I become. Sound familiar?
Yeah, very much.
And so, sure enough, my husband Ralph and I dedicated our lives to starting up and creating, managing a whole lolly shop of businesses. Everything from cafes, restaurants, to running Sydney's most controversial boutique advertising agency, from multi-million-dollar land developments, to wedding businesses in Bali and Australia. And in between all of that, we somehow found the time to also buy, renovate, and sell 74 properties. And sure enough, there came the day when I had everything I thought I wanted. This magnificent mansion on the waterfront in Australia's stunning Whitsundays, an $8.5 million share portfolio, 3 beautiful daughters, and a loving 30-year-old marriage. But I'll never forget the day when I was sitting in the kayak with my daughter Clover, surveying everything that we owned. And there was this waterfront mansion right there, swaying palm trees, private beach next door. There were turtles bobbing up and down in the bay. And the only thing I could notice was that on the outside there was nothing but exquisite beauty. And on the inside, there was nothing but emptiness. And it reminded me of one of those piñatas you see at kids' birthday parties, you know, you bash with a stick. Except if I was a piñata, there weren't even lollies inside. And it was that pang of hollowness that made me realise I basically spent my whole life trudging up a mountain only to reach the summit and discover that I climbed the wrong one. And the problem with that was that having made that realisation, I didn't know what to do next. And I was stuck. And because I didn't take action, the universe took it for me and presented us with the global financial crisis, or GFC, as we would affectionately refer to it. And so for the next 12 months, I would watch in horror as virtually everything that we worked so hard for disappeared before us. Now the problem with that was that my sense of self-worth was tied up in my net worth, so it was as if I was watching myself disappear. And at one stage, we were losing about $100,000 a day, and it was as if someone was just chopping off a finger at a time until there was nothing left. And that's when I reached my darkest place, when I heard on the news that a German industrialist had lost his fortune as well, and the way he dealt with his loss was to throw himself in front of a train. And I remember at the time I didn't feel any sadness or compassion. I was just overcome by this thought, only that had been me. When you hit your ground zero point, you're faced with a choice. And it's not whether you're going to live or die, it's which death do you choose. You choose the physical death, where you take your own life and you hand your burden of suffering onto those you leave behind? Or do you choose a metaphysical death, where you kill off the things that aren't serving you and surrender to the unknown? So what I did, I killed off the belief that I could do everything on my own, and basically reached out to others for the first time in my life. And so we opened the doors of our grand mansion, firstly to couples who wanted to get married, to produce some income, and then secondly to people who were just like me, who felt equally lost and confused and were looking for the answers to life's big questions: why am I here? And what the hell should I be doing with my life? And who am I really? And so we would gather groups of therapists and facilitators and even Buddhist monks to try and find these answers. And overnight, our very pristine marble-floored living room with its soaring ceilings that had been so much exclusively ours suddenly became open to the public and was buzzed with people who I realised were pretty much in the same predicament as me. In fact, I realised that actually this is the human predicament, that we're all stuck in a world where we are judged according to what we do, the job that we have, and how much we own, rather than who we are and the value that we can provide to others. And the tragedy of that, of course, is that we end up with a society where approximately 70% of the people working in it actually take their jobs. And so, without really realising it, my mission became how to solve this human tragedy, how to stop this wastage of precious life that we're seeing all around us, how to break that disconnect between the beautiful souls that we're born to be and the imposters that we're raised to be. The problem was that over the next 10 years I would spend looking for that answer. Not one single guru or Buddhist monk or teacher could give me the golden key. So I eventually found that golden key myself. And I started looking for answers. And the only way I could find them was to basically become a workshop junkie. So there I was one day, in the middle of the Malaysian jungle, in a lost resort. And within that resort there was a giant auditorium with 100 or so people. And we were there to face a series of our greatest fears. And the greatest fear, of course, is ceasing to exist, it's death. So we're going to go through a simulated death experience. And I was watching as this guy who could have been a Hell's Angel, who was covered in tats, approached me, and he was about to squeeze my carotid artery until I passed out. But just before he did that, I was kind of overcome by a sense of curiosity. I mean, I wonder if I'm going to see the light. Will my life flash before me? Will I experience the euphoria that so many people talk about who have come back from the brink? And as I passed out, instead, all I heard was a voice. And the voice said, "Janet, you've let everyone down." And when I came to, I was overcome by a sense of immense disappointment. How could that wet sock of a line be the summation of my entire life? and then that disappointment was replaced by outrage. Me, the tireless mother, worker, wife. When I was a little girl, I actually hated sharing my toys. And I remember a little friend of mine, Charlie, came around. We must have been 3 or 4. And when I saw him reach down and pick up my beloved teddy Bruno, I felt physically ill. And then I threw myself on the floor and I started screaming and kicking. And my mother said to me, "Janet, stop being so selfish." And of course I did, I stopped. And from that moment on I decided I would be the good daughter, the good student, good mother, life work, happy career woman. And many years later, I was walking a journalist around our property, and I was telling her how Ralph created this house and how he designed everything and he made the beautiful gardens and how he even invented the stucco that plastered the walls. And then she turned around and said to me, "Well, what do you do?" And I was kind of taken aback and I said, "Oh, I'm like spatula. You know, when a problem or a crack arises, I just fill it in. So when the outrage subsided, the truth emerged. And the truth was that, of course, I let everyone down. And no one more so than myself. Because in being what I thought was selfless and sacrificing myself on the altar of hard work, what of course I was being was ultimately very selfish. Because I was actually denying myself who I truly was, and also denying the world my gifts. Which reminded me of that line, "To thine own self be true." Now, I'd only ever thought of that famous line by Shakespeare as a benign desk calendar quote. But now it really goaded me. I thought, how on earth can I be true to myself if I don't know who my true self is? So, once again, I went inside for the answers. My dad was actually quite a famous surgeon who specialised in ears, but as brilliant as he was performing intricate cochlear implants, he was absolutely hopeless with money. And when he died, it was only then that we discovered that he did most of these 14-hour operations for free. So I actually had quite a frugal childhood. I wore hand-me-down clothes, and really the only time that I was lavish with gifts was when we went to Auntie Nell's place for Christmas Day. And I remember one particular brilliant Christmas, she presented me with this huge box with a ribbon on it. And I'll never forget untying the ribbon and seeing this amazing doll's house. And I pulled it out, and it reminded me of that Georgian mansion that Scarlett O'Hara lived in, Gone with the Wind. And I would play with this doll's house for hours. But I didn't fill it with dolls, I populated it with plastic animals and aliens that I collected from packets of cornflakes. And I would line them up, 2 by 2, just like the animals queuing to join Noah's Ark. Except in this case, I would take everyone through every room in the house and every floor of the house until finally it would emerge at the end. You know, so there might be a sheep in the living room and a chicken in the bathroom and a Martian up in the attic. And as they emerge from the house, each one would be inoculated with a purple pen, as if to say, you know, now little one, you're ready to face the world. So I was thinking, after that childhood memory floated back, what if finding out who you are did not come as a bolt from the blue? It wasn't like a lottery that you win or that you may lose, that you might stumble upon before you die. What if, in fact, it was a process? And what if the process was all about entering your own inner mansion? So that is the model I created. And this is what I'll share with you now. So if you like, imagine in your mansion there are 3 floors. Okay? So the first floor is the ground floor. It's where the living room is, the kitchen, bathroom, study. It's basically where you hang out. So in your inner mansion, this is the current self. The current self is the living, breathing, eating, sleeping, working you as you currently are. And then the next floor in your inner mansion is the place that none of us want to go to. The basement, where it's murky, musty, dark, and in your inner mansion, this is your shadow self. And this is where all your deepest traumas, all your most negative self-beliefs, all the bad things that have happened to you dwell, and also where a lot of the buried treasure exists as well. And then the third level is up in the attic, where it's all light. And when you look out of the window, all you see is an endless horizon and blue sky. And in your inner mansion, this is your highest self. Now, the problem is, most people only dwell on the ground floor. They don't go beyond it. They never ever want to go to what I believe is the most important room in the house, the basement. Because once you enter, and only once you enter the basement, and actually engage with what is down there, then you get the key. And once you can actually integrate all 3 floors of your inner mansion, that's when you become truly whole. Now, of course, in 20 minutes, I can't take you through any of the process of this, but what I could do through a guided meditation, if you're willing, is to give you a glimpse of what that wholeness might feel like. Is everyone up for guided meditation?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you could just close your eyes, get comfortable. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. And then just allow yourself to feel whatever comes up and see whatever visuals come up as I take you through this meditation. So there you are at the entrance to your inner mansion. And you open the grand front door as you always do and step inside your living room. And everything is in its place as it always is. However, on this day, something feels not quite right, as if there's something missing, and you notice out of the corner of your eye on your left, the door to the basement is slightly ajar. Now, you never usually go down this room, down this door, but on this occasion you find yourself walking towards it, and as you do, you can feel the apprehension swelling in your stomach, but even so you go closer and closer, and instead of shutting the door, you actually swing it open. And you start to walk down the steps, turning on the light, noticing as you do the many, many trunks on the floor of the basement around you. But there's one that captures your attention. It's right at the back of the room. And there's a little voice saying to you, don't go there, don't go there, don't open it, don't open it. But for once, you ignore the little voice and you go to that trunk and you reach down and you slowly, slowly open it to behold nothing except a tiny, tiny ball, maybe the size of a ping pong ball, and gingerly you pick up that ball and you see that it has the dimmest of flickering lights within it. And as you pick it up and hold it and look at it, you notice the light grows bigger and bigger until the ball becomes like a golden orb, and you feel the warmth of it. And the warmth starts to dissipate the fear, and you hold it up to yourself, and the warmth starts to penetrate your body and fill your heart with courage and excitement and love. And as it does, you have the desire to open up the other trunks in the room. And lo and behold, as you open up the trunks, you see in each one a gift, a unique ability of yours, or a strength or a talent, something that you may have loved to do as a child but you've long since forgotten, or something that you do now but you never really valued it because you just took it for granted because it came so naturally to you. And as you open each trunk, you pick up each one and you put it in your sack, and you keep loading your sack up until every trunk in that basement is empty and your sack is full. You turn around and you start to walk up the stairs, and as you do, you go, wow, there's actually a lot more to me than I thought. And you keep walking up and up and up, and you don't even stop at the ground floor. You keep going up and up and up until you reach the attic, and the door, which is normally locked, miraculously just opens up for you, and you lay down your sack of gifts onto the floor. There's light flooding through the window, and the light is illuminating the gifts so that not just you can see them, but the world can see them as well. And at that point, you walk towards the window, which is vast. It's a vast glassy pane, and you look out and you see the horizon and the endless blue sky, and suddenly you see your own great potential and finally feel at home. So take a deep breath in, let it go, and slowly open your eyes. Last week, we sold our mansion, Villa Britannica, our mansion by the sea. And because the wedding business was never one of my passions, instead of making us money, it lost us money. And so, although we sold this magnificent property for many millions of dollars, all that we had left after all the effort was less than the agent's commission. But I stand here today not feeling poor or lacking in any way, quite the opposite, because I made the smartest move, the smartest trade I could have made. I swapped my external mansion for my inner one. And my inner mansion is priceless. It can withstand any global financial crisis, any cyclone, any currency crash. What it means is that I have lost my belief that the grass is always greener somewhere else. It means that I can be wherever I can possibly be in the world and feel absolutely at home. And now I am rebuilding my wealth, knowing that because I'm doing what I love, that wealth will stay where it's supposed to. And now I am the person who's saying to you, just do. Because I know if you're not, yes, you'll be successful, but the success will be short-lived. So the good news is there is a process for finding out who you really are. And the even better news is I know that everyone in this room is sitting on an absolute fortune. Not just in terms of self-discovery, but in terms of going out there into the real world. So true wealth is not about all the zeros that come after your name, but it's everything about knowing and being who you are. Because it's not about finding your purpose. You are your purpose. It's simply about finding you.